Hello, my ceramic darlings. So today I'm going to talk to you about your object transformation, and I'm talking about the project setup. First, let's look at the assignment. The purpose of this assignment is for you to use and develop observation techniques to recreate an object and creative thinking skills to transforming that object in some way. Conceptualize about the reason for the transformation. The most successful of these projects take into consideration the importance of the object and make the transformation related to that while not engaging in cliche notions. The transformation should not be arbitrary or easily mistaken for a lack of effort or thought. So we're going to go a little bit over the assignment, which you should be familiar with by now. You are to make an object. You have to actually have the physical object in front of you, like this is like a cooking implement. Okay, so this is my daughter's, she's not cooking anything with this. But you have to actually have the physical object because the purpose of this assignment is for you to learn how to build from observation, which is more a sculptural tool. Everything we've been doing up to this point in the class has been pretty much focused on pottery or historical, and now we're going to go into the realm of art. So you're going to recreate an object and use your observation skills to create it out of clay. And then I'm asking you guys to transform the object in some way. And that's kind of up to interpretation, how you interpret that. That's the art practice that I'm talking about. In the student examples, I talked to you about different approaches where students did more autobiographical. Some students did more transformative of like looking at a dead thing and then trying to make it look alive. So, how you approach the transformation part really is the content of the work. And I do have to grade you on that. So keep in mind, you want to kind of think beyond the obvious. All right. So first, let's talk about your possible objects. So I have a couple objects here in front of me. One of them is this hiking boot. This is not my shoe. This is my son's shoe when he was about 7 years old. So I have this hiking boot. It's a three-dimensional object already, so that's pretty cool. The nice thing about shoes is that shoes are already built the way clay is built. So it's a hollow form because your foot has to go in there. So there's a cavity inside of empty space. When you build your project out of clay, you have to build the outside wall. You're not building the interior. So you need to think about how you're going to build your piece. So shoes are a great option because shoes are already built the way we would build them out of clay. So you don't have to do that big jump, technical jump if you're doing something, say like a pine cone or something crazy like that. So I need to figure out a couple things. What to do with these shoelaces. I made these shoelaces out of clay. They would totally snap and break, right? So I need to figure out some way to do the shoelaces. Maybe I'll tuck them inside and not sculpt them at all. That's totally an option. Everything else, I think this is a pretty good object. Here's another pretty good object. This is already clay. But let me show you the original. This is a plastic pineapple from Cheeseburger in Paradise from Waikiki Beach. This is not mine. I would not drink out of something like this, but whatever. To each their own. But this is like a piggy bank / there was a hole for, drinking out of it. So this is some like a novelty cup. Maybe, I was given this as part of a larger art installation that I did years ago at the Palo Alto Art Center. So maybe whoever donated this for me to sculpt, maybe this was their honeymoon and this is like the best years of their life, or the best year of their life where they got married and they remember sitting on a Cheeseburger in Paradise in Waikiki and was like, this is such an important object. So to sculpt something like this is three-dimensional. I can't really see the inside. So you do need to figure out how you're going to make the piece hollow. Now this has a lid. Oh, that's an awful sound. This has a lid. I could have made it just as is, but instead I made it out of porcelain. So you can see I can put anything I want in this little panel. It doesn't have to say Cheeseburger in Paradise, right? I can say anything I want. It has the illusion of the lid, but that lid doesn't come off. And then on the inside, you can see the walls are hollow. So basically, I built the outside walls of this piece to mimic this piece, okay? So solid pieces like this, know that you're not going to be making them solid. You're going to be building the exterior wall. Think about like basically, this is 2 pinch pots that were put together, paddled into the shape, and then sculpted. And then this piece is another hollow part that's attached on top. And then you have to think about, how is the air going to escape? This is an empty chamber that opens up. The air goes into this empty chamber, and then the air comes out the bottom, okay? So any solid pieces, you want to make sure that you're making them hollow and that you give a route for the air to escape. Other possible objects, like this is a cooking implement for my daughter's play kitchen. This is not a great object to choose. Here's why. Yes, it is 3-dimensional. Like I can grab it and hold it, but look how thin it is. If you were to make this out of clay, basically you would just be rolling a slab and cutting the shape out, and then you're done. That doesn't show to me as the instructor that you have mastery of skill, and that's your craftsmanship I have to grade you on. So you have a better chance at showing mastery of skill with something like this than you do with something like this. So keep that in mind. Now, if you made this really large and then had like, I don't know, like your favorite food, and it was like a fried egg or something, and you made this really garish fried egg or something, then it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more interesting, but still, this is so thin and really not, there's no sculpting really involved in this. It's just literally cutting out a shape. You know, you want to be very careful about really thin objects, too simple of objects that are too easy to make. Okay, you're supposed to be spending time on this project. The last item I'm going to show you is really popular. Students love to choose this item. It's the glasses. Here's the problem. I do not recommend that you guys choose anything too thin. This is thin this way and it's thin this way. There's nothing to this. If you were to make this out of clay, imagine like taking some clay and then rolling a coil that's thin like that and trying to get it to stay straight for your glasses. Okay, you know, you'll have to wait for the glasses to dry, or these clay glasses to dry, and then when you pick it up, it's going to snap in half because it is essentially too thin. Okay, so be very careful about choosing your objects. Don't choose an object that's too thin either. All right. So once you have your object, I am going to obviously choose the boot. Dun, dun, dun. The boot, my kid's boot, right? I'm going to do my sketch and write. And here's my example of my sketch that I did for my son's boot. All right, here you go. So your sketch doesn't have to be too insane, but you do want to have a couple things listed in your sketch. So I'm doing the hiking boots. My son, this is when he was 7 years old. He's now 10. He's almost 11. So the shoe is already 9 inches by 4 3/4. Clay shrinks, and clay shrinks about like 10 to 15%. So if I want my clay shoe to shrink to 9 inches, I need to multiply this by 0.10 so that it will expand. So really I'm going to be making it like 10 inches. And then it'll shrink down to 9 inches. Okay, does that make sense? You're not there, so you can't answer that question. Okay, but you have to make the piece larger just slightly than you want it to be in the end product. So, so this is 9 inches already. You can see I measured it, 4 3/4. And then I just drew the outline of it, and I paid really close attention to the object itself. Look at the toe of the shoe. Do you see how that kind of comes upward. Shoes are not flat on the bottom. We have this like little wedge, and that allows us to kind of walk when we do that. And then we have this little undercut here. So I have this undercut here, and then the toe, you can see if this is a flat line, the toe comes up here like a wedge. And then I paid really close attention to how this part here, which is the sole of the shoe, and this part, which is the heel, do you see that subtle curve where it kind of comes up from under and then goes up? And then we have this kind of line that kind of comes up here. And I just did my best job observing and drawing from the actual object. Once I had the object drawn out, I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to transform this. And what I want to do for my son, we're big hikers in my family. Well, I'm a big hiker in my family, and I drag my son along kicking and screaming. So what I want to do is this back end here, I think is going to be perfect. You see that back end right there? If I make that into a waterfall, and I can sculpt the water and maybe put some rocks down here at the bottom and have water kind of flow down and then kind of break on the rocks. That would be pretty awesome, right? This summer we tried to hike to 10 waterfalls. That was our goal. We only made it to 8. So he was a little mad at me because I didn't take him anywhere. And I'm like, well, it's COVID. Get over it. This panel down here, because it's long and low, you can see this panel right here. I thought that would be perfect for like some deserts. Deserts are long and flat. And then we have these great mountains in the distance. You know, I think about like the Mojave Desert. I grew up in the Mojave for quite a few years. And then I took my son to Death Valley last year, and we hiked the sand dunes. That was pretty awesome. So I'm going to put these low kind of maybe mesas. Maybe this will be flat on the top a little bit, like an Arizona mesa. And then that's going to be the deserts. And I'm not going to write the word deserts in my thing. I'm just labeling it in my picture. Maybe in this section here, I'm going to put some mountains, this big panel, and maybe a lake right here. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do in this section, but I'm paying attention to the stitching on your shoe. Even this kind of part, this raised edge right there, I can kind of get my pencil lead right there. That's a really thin edge. I'm going to want to sculpt that edge out, and I'm going to want to do some kind of pattern to indicate this stitching on the outside of the shoe so that it looks like a shoe. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do in this section here. Maybe this is where I'll put the labels of the places we've been. Some ideas I have is I can just do like the hikes of mountains, deserts, and oceans and things like that. Or maybe I can be more specific to the places I've taken him this year, like Lassen, Death Valley, Joshua Tree, Yosemite, and Point Reyes. Maybe I'll do like the names of trails even, because I have a list of trails that we've done. So put some thought into the object that you're going to be putting together, and start doing your sketches. Do your sketching right, submit it. I'll give you as much feedback as I can. And then the next videos will be about actually building, and I'm going to build the shoe.